people know. Let them in. Let them in, Lou. Very much like Paul McCartney.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes by the end. Maybe at the end I'll, say, hey, this is what I had a little mishap. It's been a very stressful week. It's been a very stressful 2 weeks. Check 1 2. Can you hear us, Keith? Good.
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Lily?
Do I sound
loud?
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Loud and obnoxious.
No. Well, sometimes.
You're not loud.
Depends on how much alcohol I've had.
I know loud and obnoxious members of the female persuasion.
Me too.
And you're not really like that. I don't really think
I can be like that.
Yeah, we had 1 or 2 incidents in New Orleans that time where you got a little crazy. But it's all right.
When you drink for 20 hours straight, you're gonna have that.
Yeah, that's good. I know. These things go down. They go down. Sometimes they happen.
I started drinking at the airport.
Yeah.
I had 3 drinks at the airport alone before we got there.
I think I'm ready for another drinking vacation very soon.
Legit.
I think I'm going to need one of those. So let me go here. Let me go to my channel. And super groups are live. We've got the live super groups. All right, guys. You ready to talk about some super groups? You know that? Because they're real super.
We're a super group.
They're super.
I can't.
It's like super salad.
What?
I want the super salad. Does I have a super salad? Okay, guys, we're live everywhere. Once again, yes, I'm out of Facebook jail.
Yay!
So I still want to show the YouTube thing.
That's good.
Go to YouTube. That's where I'm going to put the thing from now on because Facebook kissed my ass. But Facebook has no sense of humor. No sense of humor.
Do you want me to watch on Facebook or no?
You can, it might be there. We might be already up there. Yeah, watch Rock Rage.
Okay. But by the end of the week, Facebook has no sense of humor. By the end of the week, they might not have no employees. That's all.
All right.
Ain't nobody gonna monitor this shit.
Yeah, whatever, dude. I'm so done with being monitored. I grew up and left my parents' house, man. I don't need a freaking babysitter. All right.
This isn't the communist bloc.
Yeah. check 1 2. Okay, we can hear everybody. Okay, we're gonna get the thing started, guys. Talk about them super groups. Lily got her list. Keith has his list. Loudini's got his list. My list, I think, is small. I just have a few. I'm not as well versed as these guys. These guys that are real professionals here. So. All right, here we go. And away we go. Where's my music? Where's my music at? Okay, here we go. Got all my crap. All right, let's do it. Let's do this, biatch. Here we go. Every era and every genre of rock, and I take that again. We have an issue. Edit, undo, recorded media. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute, everybody. We need this. This is what I need. Yeah. Right now, I'd like to have the Jeopardy theme.
I was doing the circus music.
That's fine.
This is the circus.
That works as well. Check. All right, now it's going to work. Here we go. Yeah, Keith's got it. All right, we're ready. Let's do it. Here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. And one more time. Take 2. Every era and every genre of rock has its share of bands that got together because they knew each other from other established projects. The list of great bands that were formed from, these other bands is extensive. So which of these so-called supergroups had the most lasting impact, drew tons of fans, and sold enough records to truly deserve the title of supergroup? Want to find out? Get ready to rock out with your talk out. The Loudini Rock and Roll Circus with Keith, the Hawk Hawkins, and Lily V6 is next.
You're listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, changing rock history one podcast at a time.
welcome back, everybody. It is the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. I'm your host, Lou Lombardi, a.k.a. Loudini, with my co-hosts, the original power trio, ready to rock the original supergroup, Lily V6, Keith the Hawk Hawkins. Tonight we are talking about those super groups. They're super. And if you want to be super, you want to go to LouLombardiRocks.com, where all the super people are hanging out. It's just super for everybody. But seriously, if you love great guitar-driven rock in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, even today, this is the place where everybody's hanging out. We're talking about music, no politics, no COVID, no riots. It's just about great music. This is a great place to hang out. LouLombardiRocks.com. Check it out. Shout out to our bro who was co-hosting with us last week, Chris Thunderwolf Dotson, wolfscustoms.online. Get
right,
that.
right.
All right, Chris is a great dude. If you need that, you want to get that custom finish on your guitar or any musical instrument. I mean, you know, if you played a swinette, I'm sure Chris can do a hollow flash for you on it. Check it out. You want to go to wolfscustoms.online. Great guy, great supporter of the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. And, of course, our friends at Rock Rage Radio. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. You put up with all our BS. I just got unbanned from doing lives on Facebook. Woohoo for me. Facebook, you suck. Facebook is terrible. I hate you, Facebook. But woohoo. Okay, so we got Keith and Lily. Lily, last week I forgot to introduce Lily when we started. So let's go ahead and let's get Lily properly introduced. Lily, what's going on, girl?
Well, actually, I got to go to a show on Saturday in McKee's Rocks at this little tiny studio. We did 2 interviews, and I couldn't go live or anything because the bands were super secretive about it, but you know, it's all out in the open now. It was hosted by Creatures and Creep Rods. The bands were Mojo Prophet, which is a brand new, like almost reggae rock kind of band, and Castle of Ink, which I didn't get to actually see them, but I did interview them. Great guys, and I can't wait to see them.
Do they
again.
have music that we could play?
Mojo Prophet, I don't think has anything yet. Castle of Ink does have stuff. We have to contact them.
All right, yeah, definitely, because I want to. If you guys know about great bands, let me know. Actually, I've been getting emailed by bands. Since the whole pandemic thing happened, people are like, they're looking for an outlet so they can get a hold of me. And then we've got the Hawkmeister, Hawking Head, Hawkster, the man, the rock in the back pocket down there in Nolans, Keith the Hawk Hawkins. What's going on, big guy?
You know, man, just, living it one day at a time. There's nothing really happening down here. I mean, you would think that maybe they would, get a little crazy, the old Big Easy, but it's big chill nowadays. It's big chill.
There's not enough bricks. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's too high at the beginning, to be honest with you. I think that's what happened.
Oh, my God. Okay, and...
They do love their weed here. I don't know.
All right, man.
It's all good.
Very few people... I think that, you smoke weed. It's not really the kind of drug that, like, makes you really want to get up off the couch.
I kind of
You're going to be like, yeah, black people, support them, cool. We ordering a pizza?
Yeah, that's, most of the people here are pretty, like that.
It was great. Now, one of the things I was really impressed with when I was down there hanging with you, bro, was how friendly. I mean, they put the service in the service industry.
Oh,
I mean, like every restaurant, everybody took such amazing care of us. Nobody was like, you always run into, like, around here you run into some like moody waiters and bartenders and stuff like that. Not one down there. And we were drunk and obnoxious, and everybody was very cool. And I know friends that live like in Philly and New York, and they're like, you think it's bad in Pittsburgh? They're like, they're like, yeah, you want to drink it the F out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they definitely got that Southern hospitality going on here. I've never really ran into a person. I mean, you get some that are friendlier than others, but I mean, most of the time.
All those wonderful Uber drivers we had that put up with all the shenanigans.
Everybody called me baby.
Yeah, everybody calls you baby. It's great.
Yeah, that's everybody's name, honey or baby.
Honey or baby. Honey baby. Okay, speaking of great hospitality and friendliness and love and everything, here's a little song called Hate. This is Reign of Z. We're going to come back and talk about supergroups. Stick around the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
Hate.
Oh, that's never going to work. It always helps if you plug in the song. I'll edit that later. Don't worry, Reign of Z. We love you.
The institution. with praying pupils, whispers, bloodless and brutal, exposing the flaws in flesh and bone. Legions, don't touch me, no one to save me. I'm unprotected from this war of unaffected. I won't back down, I won't give in. Hate, I have to imitate. The sheep cry out 'cause the isolation's painful. Hate, I have to imitate. I'd rather be your victim than your perfect little angel. Fresh off the assembly line, bitter in yours, so you berate me for mine. Parasitic peers marching 2 by 2. I know I'll never fucking be like you. Fresh off the assembly line, bitter in yours,
Saying those naughty
berate me
words.
for mine. Parasitic peers marching 2 by 2.
Kiss your mother with that
I know
mouth?
I'll never fucking be like you.
Not to your mother.
The sheep cry out 'cause the
No, that would be weird.
I'd rather be your victim than your perfect little
She'd be mad at me.
sheep cry out. I'd rather be your victim.
One of the few Reign of Z songs I've never played off of that record. And I don't know why. I think the reason why I didn't, because it's explicit, but it's been that kind of day, week, month. I'm just
cares?
like,
It's
I'm
one-
playing it.
Said it like, what, twice?
Hate by Reign of Z. Check it out, guys. Go check them out. So we're talking about supergroups, and we all have like our ideas of the bands we really dig. We're trying. The idea is, and you know, technically, I guess everybody in any band, right, Keith, has been in other bands.
That's
You know,
legit.
Yeah,
technically, you
would
could say
think, you would
you
think.
could say that. You know what I mean? Very rarely is it like unless you're U2, you know, you've been in other bands. So, but we're trying to say, you know, these guys were in bands that like people heard of or liked their songs or at least had some, even if it was a niche thing, you know, had some cred, and then they got together and did their thing. So, you know, and we're trying not to do retroactive supergroups like Mother Love Bone had the guys from Pearl Jam, right? But they came before Pearl Jam. So, yeah, they're kind of a supergroup, but they're like a supergroup in retrospect. Same way with Uncle Tupelo, with Sun Volt and Wilco. That doesn't really, we're not going there because, again, that Uncle Tupelo came first, okay? So this is where we are. Let's get into it. What do we got? I'm going to let my wonderful co-hosts get started here. Who wants to go first? Keith's itching his boob, and Lily was itching her boob, so...
Sweat. You go first, Keith. You go first.
I'll go for it. Okay. I'm going to start off with, and this singer in this band is going to repeat in my list, so just be aware of that. I'm going to start off with one of my favorite supergroups of all time, I think. Unfortunately, only one album from this band, Temple of the Dog. Temple of the Dog is a band started by Chris Cornell, members of Pearl Jam. It was a tribute to the guys from Mother Love Bone, oddly enough, Andrew Wood, who left us a little too early. And the band, unfortunately, like I said, once again, wants just one album, but there's a lot of good tracks. Eddie Vedder makes some vocal appearances on the album, but it's a tight record, and unfortunately, it didn't. You know, they've done several reunion shows. I mean, but
Cool.
not much album from them except for the one. So, and it's self-titled.
Yeah, but it's a good album.
And
solid.
Very good album,
a
yeah.
lot of these supergroups have one album. That's not uncommon
that's
for.
that's
and
unfortunate, yeah, I
I
mean-
think the thing of it is, Keith and Lily V6, is that I think because they have that. Well, they got those egos. You know,
Oh,
they were
yeah.
in big fight. big freaking bands. And so, you know what I mean? So those guys can only probably be in that band for like short periods of time, and then they got to go back and do their thing. If not for ego, but maybe just for contractual reasons, or they've got other demands on them, you know, they can't hang. Yeah. So I think that's a real thing. But yeah, I love Temple of the Dog.
Unfortunately, with that band, they released their album in 1991, didn't get popular till 1992 when Pearl Jam sort of blew up, because everybody knew who Pearl Jam was, and they're like, oh, let's listen to their band that they were in, you know, that they are also in, I guess.
I thought that too, and it was like this Temple of the Dog thing kind of came out of nowhere, and I was going like, wait a minute, that sounds an awful lot like that guy from Pearl Jam.
Right.
Like, I was confused over it until like later on, when I got an education on the whole grunge thing. So what do you got, Lilith?
Well, I'm going to go with Velvet Revolver. Basically, this is like supergroup formed by Guns N' Roses, members leaving or being fired. Took them a while to find a lead singer. They were interested in Scott Weiland. He hated the music they sent him at first, and then he turned him down again, and finally he agreed to be in the band. They've like went back and forth with this band a couple times, and finally they were just on an indefinite hiatus after Weiland went back to STP, and they had like a one-off benefit concert, and then unfortunately Scott Weiland passed away in 2015, and they have not released any material since 2008, so I guess they're like basically done.
Well, Scott Weiland died. Hello.
Well, they can replace him.
No, who would they get? Chris Cornell's dead too,
Legit,
and Lane Staley's dead. Like, who would they get?
Bands do it.
They'd have to hire Loudini.
Well, why not?
Wait a minute. But they could get what's that kid's name that did Chester Bennington? Oh shit, he's dead.
Oh wait, he's dead too. Yeah, but basically it's all GNR people. But they haven't had anything since 2008. But that's fine.
I interviewed.
What's Scott Stapp doing nowadays?
I interviewed a guy named Jefferson Angel, and Jefferson Angel's in a band with Duff McKagan called Walking Papers. It's a very cool group.
I've heard of that.
Really, really cool rock band. But he was rehearsing with Duff and Slash before Scott Weiland said he would do it. Because Scott Weiland was on the fence, so they were talking to Jeff to do it.
Josh Todd from Buck Cherry too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
And you know, and Jeff was like, I had to say, well, you know, if you're gonna get Scott Weiland, obviously, you know, that's the choice. You know,
Josh Todd just wasn't into it.
But Jeff is, and we should play some Walking Papers on the show at some point. And I also want to mention one thing, because you brought up Velvet Revolver, which always makes me think of Duff McKagan, and Duff has an awesome show on Ozzy's Boneyard.
Really?
It's called 3 Chords Into Truth, and he plays the coolest stuff, and he plays a lot of bands that were like deep in the LA and Seattle scene during the 90s that like we never heard. Bands that like Rose Tattoo?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a band that wasn't super big, and he played the song by Rose Tattoo. I was like, oh my God, I'm immediately looking it up and favoriting it on Spotify, and it was so freaking good. But it's always like this like revelation every time.
That's why
you listen to
Sirius
it.
makes me crazy.
He is so, I mean, and Duff is, you know, he's a punk rocker, hard rocker kind of guy, but he's deceptively knowledgeable about punk rock and heavy metal. He's like a walking musicologist. So if you guys get a chance to check it out, I'm going to mention a band on my list, and that is, this was such a cool thing that happened, and I freaking danced in the street when they did this. But Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler, along with Mr. Appice, reunited with Ronnie James Dio and called it Heaven and Hell.
Awesome.
And it's like the best. It's some of Sabbath's best stuff. The songwriting is solid. It doesn't sound tired. They go into some new directions. Iommi's guitar playing on this record is so insanely melodic and so heavy, and the songs are just out of this world. Get the Heaven and Hell album, and there is a great concert. You can watch it for free. They did a concert DVD, and it's just on YouTube to watch for free. And that little fricker Ronnie James Dio running around singing his ass off, like he's got, at this time he had cancer, and he just was just kicking freaking butt.
Well,
so that is a great record. If you do not, I would recommend everybody in this room and everybody listening, if you have not heard the Heaven and Hell album, just go listen to it. You will not be disappointed. It's totally awesome. All killer, no filler. Keith the Hawk Hawkins, what you got, brother?
I'm going to go with another, but I'm going to stay with the one album theme. So hopefully this band will put another album out one day, but I would think that they're probably, these guys are kind of busy. Them Crooked Vultures. Them Crooked Vultures was a power trio with Dave Grohl. Maybe you heard of him. John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. Maybe you heard of him. And Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. Again, these three guys probably have a very demanding, lives going on. But if they ever got together, the album they released is actually pretty solid. Has definitely a throwback, sort of like almost Zeppelin-y classic rock kind of feel. Has some like cool guitar work. I mean, Grohl's awesome as usual, and John Paul Jones, man, being the elder statesman of that band, keeps up with the boys and just basically just still lays down that grooving ass bass line, and hopefully they can do something else. But that's again one of these bands that's just one album, and I got quite a few on my list that just were. It blew me away, and I was excited to hear these musicians get together and make a project. But then it's just it's very short lived. But them Crooked Vultures definitely made a cool album, so hopefully we can get something else from them.
I heard them in passing, but it's so funny you mention them because I put them on as I was getting things set up. That's one of the reasons why there was a few boo-boos, because I was rocking out to them Crooked Vultures. The songwriting, the riffs are very. It's Zeppelin-esque in the sense that it is so unique. What they do musically on that is freaking brilliant. I was really impressed with it. Do you know that band at all, or
no? I'm not very familiar with that band.
Yeah, but really good. Just sounds like just great rock, but it has a very cool. I don't know how to explain it. It's adventurous. It's not just E, A, and B rock and roll kind of songs. It has that vibe, but with kind of deeper songwriting. Very, very good pick, Keith. I like it. What do you got, Lil?
Yeah, very, very cool band. Like I said, those three guys are still around, so maybe you cross your fingers one day we get something else.
It would be awesome. What do you got, Lily V6?
Next on my list, I'm going to talk about Bad English. Because they're hard rock / glam metal, which we all know I love. It's got John Waite from the Babies. It's
essentially the Babies and Journey.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Babies and Journey, and Dean Castronovo. Jonathan Cain and Neil, I always say his name wrong,
Neil Schon.
Schon, okay. Had huge success in Journey, decided to form a band with Wade after Journey disbanded. Their first album was a huge success. They had 3 top 40 hit singles. When I See You Smile is obviously one of the biggest ones. The song Best of What I Got was featured on the soundtrack for Tango and Cash. What eventually happened was some of the members were frustrated with the pop side of everything and wanted to do stuff a little harder, and basically that was the band's undoing.
Is that why Hardline formed?
I guess.
Because the guys from Journey, they had a lot of different. Jonathan Cain and Neil Schon did a lot of different stuff in between that Steve Perry kind of leaving thing. Bad English and the Hardline was the next project they did, which I still jam out.
I was obsessed with them this
Hot Sherry. I still jam out to that it's a great riff.
Obsessed with that song. But everyone left to do other projects, so they kind of.
And what is John Waite up to these days?
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything.
I would think. Yeah, I don't know.
He's still alive, I think. But
I think we would hear if he had passed away.
It's definitely not in the Babies anymore. That's for sure. I just saw them.
If I was frustrated with a pop band and I wanted to rock, I would definitely join a band and put out a song called "When I See You Smile" because that shit just rocks.
And the video is epic with all the hair flying everywhere.
Oh, there's a lot of hairspray going on in that video.
I'm going to pick a band that is. This is another album that is all killer, no filler. Some of the best musicians in the entire world are on this record, and I think Keith the Hawk Hawkins will agree with me on this. The album has some of the best songwriting. It has guests on it like Jackson Browne and Andy Summers. They did a couple of records, but their debut album is heads and shoulders above everything else they ever did. It's just absolutely Deborah Holland on vocals, who was not famous, but the other two people you will definitely know. On the drums, Stuart Copeland. Keith, you know the Stew Man,
I've heard of him. Yeah,
and Stanley Bassman Clark on the bass guitar. And it is insane. Not only is the playing, as you would imagine, just unbelievable. What is so great about this record is they took Deborah Holland's kind of like album adult alternative kind of songs, which are very well written, thoughtful lyrics, beautiful, romantic, everything. And these guys put together these arrangements with some of the most technical stuff without sounding technical. You know what I mean? Like they just put everything in the right spots and everybody is shining, but you don't realize how great they are because these songs, you're just listening to great songs. It's a very unusual record in that aspect. Was a lot of times when you get these super groups together, everybody's competing to see, who's gonna like solo and who's gonna stand out and everything. And these are 4 or 5 guys in a room completely playing for the song. And what's so great is Stanley Clark and Stuart Copeland are such consummate musicians. They have nothing to prove. At this point, these guys have nothing to prove. This is probably circa 1989, 1990, pre-grunge and alternative and whatever. But if you do not know the album Animal Logic by Animal Logic, get it. You will not be disappointed. Just absolutely top to bottom, front to back, one great song after another. And they were, like I said, they were able to pull in some great guest performances from people as well. So check it out. Are you familiar with that project at all, Keith? Animal Logic?
You know what? I probably have it somewhere on CD, and I probably own CD, yes. And I probably haven't listened to it in years, but now that you're, bringing it back up, Stuart Copeland's been in a lot of side projects, man. Like he's been in a lot of bands that you can, one I'll name here in a minute, hopefully. But he's been in a lot of bands. He had another band called Clark Kent, which he did a lot of very interesting, music. And he's done a lot of scores for movies. And I mean, the guy's always been busy. He still does a lot of things. Not one of the greatest. And probably, arguably, a lot of people will say, and I'm very back and forth. John Bonham's probably the reason I started playing drums, but Stuart Copeland's probably the most. If John Bonham's the most, influential rock drummer, Stuart Copeland's like 1A, man. He's like right there with people that have he's just inspired, generations of drummers. Yeah. It's just the way he plays is just, it's unorthodox. But when you figure out when you listen to him speak or talk about his influences, it makes sense because he's coming from a completely different, way of playing compared to a lot of guys that just, more your AC/DC standard type stuff.
Lily and Keith have some great picks coming up for you guys. Stick around. We're going to take a break and listen to Jack Berry. This is Rooster Up on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
40 long hours, ain't slept a wink. Long as money's in the pocket, uncoiled the kink. I got a mind, can't stop it like a drip stuck sink. I got a mind, can't stop it like a steam locomotive. Shooting Jack and cocaine like a smoking gun. Breaking my brain till the D's all done. Gonna shake my fate of a firstborn son. Gonna rooster up till morning come. Got a heart ticking like a bigger man. Been doing my bidding toward a better brand. Get a grip on the living, get the mitten instead. Get a grip, start slipping like I get what I was given, what I had. So I'll be kicking up the road till the buzzers leave my bones. So I'll be kicking up the road. So I'll be kicking up the road until the buzzers leave my bones. So I'll be kicking up the road. Seen a red-blooded woman, says she loved the blues. Green eyes leave me gutted on the way she moves. Got a man at it, she tell me just for fun. You better shoot, loot, or give up the gun. I get a taste for trouble when she's bad at eyes. Gonna make some rubble, swinging chin head high. Roosted up on doubles, got sand to try. Loosen up the shovel, a man stand to die. So I'll be kicking up the road until the buzzers leave my bones. So I'll be
That's Jack Berry, Rooster Up on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, Lily Von Six, and Keith the Hawkins and Loudini. We're talking about them super groups, not groups who are just, because we love them, not because I love Rush. They're not a super group. It's because...
They're a power trio.
Yeah, there you are. These are those groups where you hook up with, guys from other famous bands that get together and they do something really cool. So...
I had something to say to that, but go ahead.
It was the Hawkmeister's
it's his turn.
So what do you got, Mr. the Hawk?
I want to stay with the Stuart Copeland theme and pair him up with two other badasses and another one that made one album, and hopefully they're all still around and maybe we get something else one day, but they're probably pretty busy.
I know who you're saying.
This band's called Oysterhead, and they made one record. It's called The Grand Pecking Order. It's a very interesting album. It sounds like all three bands fused into one. Like nothing. You would figure with Les Claypool in a band, it would sound a lot like Primus, and it does. But Trey Anastasio's guitar playing is not like Primus. It's jammy. He does a lot of cool things in the band. Stuart Copeland's drumming is the album opens up with something. Stuart's one little drum cadence he does, and you can immediately tell it's Stuart Copeland. It's a very cool record. Not very commercial. I don't think it's even. I never even heard anything about the album on the radio. I mean, never got any play that I know of. There wasn't a lot of I don't even know if there's any remember when they had music videos? I don't even know if anything like that was ever made for this. I know they have played recently. They played a festival, I think, in Chicago within the last year. There's actually a YouTube video of it, but I don't know what their future plans are. But once again, three really, really, really awesome musicians that just made a record. And you would think that those three would, maybe have a problem gelling. That's very different styles of players. But once you're, if you're good, you're good. And it came together, and it like I said, it's a cool record. Like I said, it's not not for everyone, but it's got some cool moments, and it does sound like all three bands. I mean, every song has it's a little adventurous at times, but I mean, it's definitely it's a very solid record.
Excellent. And I actually have a Les Claypool thing on my list as well, which we'll get to a little bit later. Lily, what do you got?
The next one on my list is a little newer, The Damned Things.
Oh, yeah. That was actually put that on my list. That's a cool one.
2009, they formed. So basically, it's the guys from Fall Out Boy meets the guys from Anthrax meets the guys from Every Time I Die. And then Alkaline Trio comes in later. But they basically, Troman and Scott Ian met and began writing music together. They invited the others to come into the band, aiming for a blues meets riff-heavy metal rock with
it's insanely catchy
it's
but
great.
heavy music.
It's pop, but it's heavy.
That record is so good.
It
puts a giant smile on your face because it's heavy and it's Scott Ian, but the songs are all insanely catchy and irreverent, and it's really fun. And I couldn't believe it when you recommended that to me, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, this record is so freaking good."
Yeah, Ironiclast, and that was their better of the two albums, but also High Crimes is good too. I did get to see one show on that newest tour, and then they were supposed to continue touring, but of course, things happen. And
what's troublesome about something like that is with everything that happened. That's not the kind of band because they have other commitments,
right?
So you don't know if they're actually
going to
be able to do anything.
But I have read that Scott Ian still wants to do things with them.
I would definitely go check them out. Please let me know.
We may have more touring.
Yeah, I would definitely go to that show,
so,
man.
Yeah, and it's funny. The only one that wasn't drunk on that stage was Scott Ian. The rest of them, they were pretty done. But it was still a good show.
Cool. Yeah, no, I was wildly impressed with.
I love them.
I
love them.
I am going to to move right along here, since Keith mentioned Lester, I'm going to mention Lester Claypool as well. And this is these guys have done two albums, and these are strange bedfellows, if you will. This is Les Claypool with Sean Lennon, and it's called the Claypool-Lennon Delirium, and it is very non-Les Claypool-like. It's not jammy. It's not slappy kind of bass. He plays very differently in this project. The songs are kind of like a Beatles meets Pink Floyd kind of sound. It's progressive in the sort of Pink way the Beatles could be progressive with, the Sun King thing and all, and the way Pink Floyd can be progressive with, the Dark Side of the Moon and stringing long pieces of, where they take 4 or 5 very catchy things and kind of string them together into like an opus or whatever. It's that kind of record. It's a kind of record that we don't really hear anymore, and it is absolutely wonderful. And if you've not listened to the Claypool Lennon Delirium, you're not doing right by yourself. Give it a chance. Everybody's picks are really good today. You guys should all listen to all these bands because they're all really, really cool things. We picked good ones.
I've never heard one note from that freaking project you're talking. I've seen it written about, and I don't even know they had 2 albums.
Yeah, they have 2 albums. Just pull it up because you can listen to everything for free on YouTube. Just pull up their latest thing and let it play a little bit. This is not your average pop kind of format. It's a kind of progressive. Like I said, the songs kind of like flow one into another. You'll hear it. You'll go like, yeah, I know what Lou was saying when he mentioned.
So
it.
It's Sean Lennon and Les Claypool. They didn't let Julian in at all. Give him a couple swings at the fence, man. I mean, come on, it's been a while. It's been a minute.
Anyways, that's enough about that. Because we got 3 lists here. I'm trying to get everybody in. So what do you got, Keith?
I'm going to go back to Mr. Cornell again, one of my favorite vocalists of all time. I'm going to go with another project he had called Audio Slave.
It's on my list too. Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, him and some boys from a band called Rage Against the Machine put a little project together. And another band that Chris Cornell's not going to come in. He's not going to rap. He's not going to be like overly angry and political like Zach De La Rocha, thank God. But
we don't need that right now.
No, not at all. But even for that, I mean, he's going to be one of the great rock vocalists of all time, like he is, and he's going to sing melodically, and he's going to sing with awesome range, and he's going to do his Chris Cornell thing. But at the same time, that could have went a couple different ways. And Tom Morello is going to play like Tom Morello. And the guys in Rage that are with him, they have the chemistry. They're going to play like they play, and it was. When I heard Code Cheese, it was very Rage Against the Machine with a different vocalist. Then as you dig into the album, then you dig into the second album. There's some interesting melodic, more mellow tunes, like I Am the Highway, Like a Stone. I mean, there's some songs that are like, a little bit more chill. But when you can play and you can get along with people, that's the hardest part, believe it or not. And you can gel as a band. You can write and make some magical shit that happen, and you're getting people from like still rock musicians, but they're kind of different. But then when they come together, it's either going to friggin' just explode and blow up in your face and be a mess, or it's going to it's going to be great. It could be great, like an Audio Slave, album, or it could be Lou Reed and Metallica, piece of shit. Because that's what that album is. What was it called? Lulu? It should be called No No. Is that album? You ever hear that thing?
Keith gets the line for the podcast this week. Lulu should have been called No No.
You ever hear that album?
Yes. Not the whole record. I've heard bits and pieces of it. It's very bizarre.
I put it outside when I want to scare the cats away.
It's very bizarre. Yeah. Show Me How to Live. That's all I got to say. If that was the only song they ever wrote in that band, that would be
that's probably one of the great guitar riffs.
That
of the last
riff is
15 years. Yeah, that's some sick shit, man.
What is that? It's insane that they wrote that, and then you've got Cornell, one of the greatest rock singers of all time, singing over that. It's like, I mean, and that band is so tight. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have
Brad Wilk on the drums. Brad Wilk's like a modern day John Bonham.
Yeah.
Tim Comerford's are just a sick, laying it down, pocket, grooving ass bass player, a little crazy in the head. Then Tom Morello's his thing. That's Tom Morello's doing his thing, man.
Yeah. The only thing about Audio Slave that I did not like was the name.
Yeah.
I just thought the name was like, that's the best name. The music is so good, you could have come up with a better name. Anyways, but yeah, good pick, Keith. Lily, what do you got?
I'm going to go with a band that I was super excited to hear when they came out, and that's Chickenfoot.
All right. I could see you picking a little Chickenfoot.
Well, we know why, because Sammy Hagar. But basically, it's Van Halen and Deep Purple. little Red Hot Chili Peppers in there. Basically, this band formed out of Sammy and friends, like, jamming out at his club in Cabo. And the fans, the people listening, asked them, when are you guys going to have an album? When are you guys going to tour? And that was just a jam thing. They just were supposed to just jam, and they decided they had time to get together and create this wonderful album. The first one was amazing. Second one, not so much. But they keep trying to get the band together for a third album, and it's just, all of them are too busy. It's Hagar, Satriani, Michael Anthony. They've got other stuff they're doing.
Well, Chad's
Chad Smith.
He just got done playing on Ozzy's record.
Yeah, so they're all doing other things. So they're trying to do, and this is as of 2017, they're trying to do a third album. Probably not going to happen because Sammy's doing the Circle right now, and there's just things going on.
Well, the funny thing about the Circle is that
basically
Sammy, I heard him interview. I heard Eddie Trunk interviewing him, and he's like, he told Eddie, he's like, man, nobody wants to hear original music anymore. He's just, I'm just getting this band together. We call ourselves the Circle. We're just going to go out and play covers.
And that's what they do, because I've seen them.
But then they put out a record of original.
I know, I have it. I got it free when I bought the tickets to the show.
But that's cool. No,
but during the shows, they do play.
You got to give. I love Sammy Hagar.
Oh, I'm in love with him.
He was in another super group with of all people, Neil Schon, in the 80s, and they did they released a version of Whiter Shade of Pale.
Yeah,
with a bunch of guitar stuff on it. It was kind of cool. It was pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna step into Mr. Peabody's Wayback Machine for this next one. I'm gonna go way back, and I know that Keith likes this band, and I'm pretty sure you do too. This is a band that they did 2 records. The first record is so insane and so good. But they couldn't seem to get their crap together for the second record, and it is, of course, The Firm.
I knew you were going to say
Jimmy Page.
That's on my list.
And Paul Rodgers.
That's a band I kind of forgot about.
Unbelievable. I mean, the great songwriting. And to hear those two guys, they were on the same record label, coming up. Bad Company was on the same record label as Led Zeppelin. And it just was a kind of natural kind of mix. It's different kind of songs than you would expect from either band. It doesn't sound like Led Zeppelin, and it does not sound like Bad Company. It's its own thing. Radioactive, Satisfaction, Guaranteed.
Closer.
Closer. Those are all very, very, it's just good music, just really, really written. And I feel it was a kind of unique spot in the 80s because they weren't trying to do the hair thing, that type of sound. They weren't trying to go back and relive their 70s type thing.
Well, they didn't even want to do anything that they played prior.
Right, they did a whole. Their thing was completely original. It had it was very much of its time. The production, I will admit, is dated. It has the gated drums and the big reverb on the voice and all that. But I was the songwriting is there. Good stuff. So I will just leave it at that. If anybody wants to comment, go ahead. If not, Keith, you're up next.
First, let me say something about that project. Once you have certain components in place, everybody knows Jimmy Page. He's a legend. Everybody knows Paul Rodgers. But there's things in that band. If you're not familiar with Tony Franklin's bass playing, and you put Tony Franklin in a band, he just got a unique sound, man. I mean, anytime Tony Franklin's going to pick up a bass and play that fretless or whatever he wants to do, there's 2 guys who come to mind. Tony Levin's another one. These guys have unique bass styles, and they just make a song their own by just doing, even if they're doing the simplest stuff, they stand out in the track, So
what do you got? Who's on your list, Keith?
I got why are you rushing me, man? Life's short.
Well, we're hitting it hard, and everybody's got a lot to say. So yeah, we got the time is flying.
I'm going a little bit. I'm going to go a little poppier here, a little bit left field, but still that band. I'm trying to do some, one with some star power. I'm going to go with the Power Station, believe it or not.
I almost I was this close to putting them on my list.
I'm glad somebody mentioned it. It's a great band.
The Power Station was cool. They had I'm not a big fan of that dude's guitar tone. What is it, Andy Taylor? I think his name is. Not a big fan, but that's nitpicking, so we won't even go into that. But they got the blue-eyed soul singer Robert Palmer. We got Chic's drummer Tony Thompson. Believe Tony Thompson playing in a rock gig, nice. And John Taylor, who's actually black, and they will come out one day when the DNA test comes down. Who's just funky as shit, and then just this white English dude. But
Duran,
cool.
he's the guitar player in Duran.
Yeah, I mean it's just his bass lines are all. He's a good bass player, man. And so I mean, it's like just that. Just again, an interesting little collection of people, but they come up with doing like a rocked out version of the T-Rex tune.
Well,
you got like
Duran. John Taylor said that when they originally got Duran together, that was the concept.
Oh,
was
really?
this sort of rocked up funk thing, but it turned into something completely different. And you know how bands you start doing one thing and somehow more morphs into something else because the singer's different and the keyboard player writes the songs or whatever, you know. But that was the original. That's where I blame
Simon Le Bon for that shit. He's about as milquetoast as they come home. But yeah, that's Some Like It Hot. They have some good songs. That's funky rock, man.
They put out a couple of records, and then they reunited and did a third record, and that record is good. Everything these guys did is good. If you haven't listened to all the Power Station albums, do yourself a favor. Listen.
I have them on my phone.
We're giving you guys some great stuff. You're going like, I don't know what I want to listen to. We just gave you like a whole catalog of crap.
Thing.
Every one of these is good. Check them out. All very different. Lily, what you got?
I got Grand Funk Railroad, and maybe not early on when they had like Terry Knight and the Pack guys, like Mark Farner and Don Brewer, but now they have Bruce Kulick and Max Carl and Tim Kajan, and they played packed arenas when they got together. They weren't so loved by the critics, but the audiences absolutely love them.
Are you talking about like a revamped version of them?
Well, it started out as who they were, but now like it's still the same thing, basically. But in '71 they actually equaled the Beatles' Shea Stadium attendance, but they sold out in 3 days, and the Beatles took weeks to sell out. So that's why they're on my list.
Look at Lily with the Grand Funk Railroad stats.
Exactly, I know. And the reason I thought this was cool.
I don't need whole lots of money.
Hey, they're an American band. Watch yourself.
The reason their name is what it is, and I thought it was cool, they did a play on words, Grand Trunk Western Railroad, and just changed it to Grand Funk Railroad, which is actually a line that runs through their hometown of Flint. So that's why.
Michigan
it's
boys.
Awesome. It's awesome.
My favorite Grand Funk Railroad song is Bad Time. Must have picked the Bad Time to Be in Love. That's a great song.
I like it. I saw them at the casino with Bruce.
Breath.
Don Brewer is responsible for two things: a very cool drum intro, and when we're an American band, and having just as cool as a white guy afro as Bob Ross.
Yeah, he has a badass afro. He had a great afro.
Oh yeah, not too many white dudes can pull that off.
Okay, we're running low. We're running quick. We're running low on time. So I think we're going to hang out. We're going to end the podcast in a little bit here. And then I think we're going to continue to talk because Keith sent me this crazy message the other day saying, oh my God, there's so many supergroups. Oh my God, I don't know what we're going to talk about. So I think that Keith's got a lot more. I think
I got like 75 more.
I think so. So we're going to continue on after the podcast is over. Go to LouLombardiRocks.com and we're going to go over there and we're going to continue hanging out. We're going to end the show here in a little bit. We're going to go around with one more round. We're going to do one more round. I'm going to give one. Go ahead. So I'm going to go with the kind of something a little more obscure. Not obscure to some of you guys listening, but overall a little bit more obscure.
Oh.
And that is the band Down, which is members of Pantera and members of Corrosion of Conformity and some other guys. Yeah. And it is a really heavy, groove, doom kind of thing. If you haven't heard Down, go check them out. Very cool stuff. 90s-esque.
90s-esque.
That era. Keith.
With New Orleans own Phil Anselmo on the vocals. He had a bunch of side projects.
Yeah,
too,
he's still going. God bless
I'm going to go with I think one that's probably too obvious. And this was the cream of the crop, and they were called Cream, and there's a reason why, because they all three could play. After digging into these guys a little bit, it was funny that they said that Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker were probably going to kill each other before the band even started. So it was doomed from the start, but they gave it a whirl, and they lasted longer than most people probably would have thought. I mean, they put out 3 to 4 studio albums and some live recordings. I mean, and plus they did a reunion tour. So I mean, they did some reunion shows, we'll say, not a real tour. But what they lasted that long and didn't want to kill each other. I think that one night in the Madison Square Garden it was going to come to blows. But I think Clapton got to step in and make that shit chill. But But a great band overall, and all three great players. And that name came from the cream of the crop because they were all, at the top of their game at the time, and they made some really good albums in a short amount of time. So.
Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce did a project with Gary Moore as well, and the name of it escapes me. It might have just been their names, but that's noteworthy as well. Yeah, the people that like Clapton, who like long for his heyday, talk about two periods, and that is the Blues Breakers album, the Beano album, and his work with Cream. And that's like, to me, that's after, that's it, for Clapton, for me.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Clapton fan, but his stuff with Cream, I think, was, he was feeding off of what those guys were throwing down, and it just was. That's my favorite Clapton era too.
The reason I think he was so good in that too, you said feeding off, and I think that they pushed him, and there was a kind of like he was instead of that being like an Eric Clapton band, that was a band with three guys who were like all his equals, and they were all pushing each other, and there was like personality tensions there, but there was musical tension because Bruce would be playing something on the bass and Ginger would be doing something with the drums, and Clapton had to respond to that. It wasn't like, this is my band and that's not how the song goes, like it was for the rest of his life. So I think that's one of the reasons why he sounded so good. Lily, last one.
I'm going with an obvious one, Traveling Wilburys. They formed in '88 after the five members recorded something for Harrison, Handle with Care. They all said it was too good just to be a single, one-off, so they created an entire album. Never toured, created a second album, but Harrison wasn't into it anymore. And as we all know who's in it, Harrison, Dylan, Petty, Line, and Orbison. So.
And several of them, unfortunately, a handful of those guys have passed on.
Yeah. Three.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, three.
Tom Petty. Roy Orbison
and Harrison
and Georgie.
Yeah, there's only two left, man.
So, guys, there's a lot of these bands out there, and there's some bands that you don't realize are supergroups that actually kind of are. So, do some research. We're going to hang out. We're going to go in the inner circle and hang out and talk a little bit more about this. But I got to wrap up for today because we got an hour and we're just about there. You've been listening to Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. Go to LouLombardiRocks.com if you want to hang out more. There's some awesome folks there. This is a great group of people. It's a community of folks that love great guitar-driven rock, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. Everybody's cool there. Sometimes we disagree about stuff, but, it's cool. There's no flaming. There's no fighting. It's awesome. So check it out. Plus, you get access to some exclusive conversation and podcasts and things like that. So check it out. Shout out to Chris Thunderwolf Dodson and WolfCustoms.online. Get that custom paint job on your musical instrument out there. Thank you, Rock Rage Radio, for always hosting us. Lily V6.
Go check out my show, Hot Licks with Lily 6, Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, rockrageradio.com, or just download the free app on your phone.
The free app, Rock Rage Radio. And Keith the Hawk Hawkins, you played a gig, and are you playing any more?
I did. I'm gonna have a gig on June 20th at Bowie's.
Nice.
Bar and Grill. It's in where the hell is that? Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Good stuffs.
Glad to hear it, brother. Glad to hear it. All right, guys.
We're back in the saddle.
I love it. Well, we're going to continue the conversation here. Go to LouLombardiRocks.com. Keith, stick around, bro. Okay?
I'll be there.
All right, man. All right. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out. And we had some great bands. We had Reign of Z. We played Jack Berry. And we're going to get out of here with a band I haven't played in a little while, Firewolf. They are promising a new record soon, so check them out. A great metal band, Firewolf. We rule the night. Talk to you guys on the next Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
wish you guys wouldn't do that.
What?
You can't leave like that because questions were flying in. I don't know the answers to. Right now, I have two questions. Lily, what is your favorite death metal band from Finland?